Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Scotty T from Your Comedy Minute, and I have an Emmy award-winning comedian and writer, Brian Kiley.
You scared
Brian
me.
Kiley's here. Brian, it's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Scott. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. You are an amazing guy.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure about that, but thank you.
No, let's start. You're in California right now,
I am. Yep.
but
I'm from Boston,
you
but
weren't born and raised there.
no, I was born and raised in Newton, Mass, just outside of Boston.
Okay. Now, again, I kind of want to go back to the beginning because you do comedy and you're a writer. How
hmm
did it all start?
Do you want? Are we talking about my childhood, or what? What
Yeah,
are you
yeah.
talking?
I mean, in other words, I was class clown in high school. I hear all kinds of stuff. Whatever,
Yeah, sure,
whatever.
sure. Yes, I think I think that that was the highlight of my day when I could get a big laugh in class,
Yeah.
and if I could make the teacher laugh too, that was a bonus.
Okay.
Um, but yes, that was very much, my younger brother was the smart one, and uh, so for me, getting laughs was made it worthwhile going to school.
Okay.
Um, I always loved jokes. In the second grade, I got in trouble because I took a joke book out of the library and I didn't return it. I just wanted to keep it.
Just kept it. Yeah.
Yes. So I always just loved jokes, and when my parents would have company would come over, I would always tell them a joke. And when I was a kid, my mother knew I liked comedy, so if I was playing outside or playing in the basement or something, and then a comedian was on, they had these daytime talk shows then called they had Mike Douglas and they had Merv
Yeah.
Griffin. And if they had a comedian on, my mother would call me in from outside or whatever and say, Brian, there's a comedian on, and I'd come in and
Okay.
I'll
All
watch the
right. Yeah.
comedian. And then I'd go back outside and play. So um,
Early on, you knew you wanted to do comedy.
I did, but I also knew, like, when I was a kid, there was no such, I had never heard of comedy clubs. I didn't know if they even existed. But I remember would watch the Dick Van Dyke Show, and he was a
Right.
comedy writer. So that made me aware that, oh, these shows have writers, and maybe I could write on a TV show. So I think probably around 11 or 12, I kind of decided I wasn't going to make it as a in the NFL or whatever. So
The starting center fielder for the Boston Red
yeah,
Sox.
exactly. As much as I would
Okay.
have dreamed of that. So um, it
Well, that's
so
kind of where I was going is that,
yeah.
because you've been on TV and everything, and you're a writer, which came first? Was it doing stand up or was it writing the jokes?
Oh, definitely writing the jokes. So
Okay.
I thought I started when I was probably about 13 or so. I
Okay.
started writing jokes for saying, okay, I'm going to need these when I get older, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So I had they had these little 3x5 cards, and I had this little it was like one of my mom's like recipe boxes,
And
and I
yeah.
would think of a joke and I would write it down and I would put them in this little recipe box for when when I
But when
needed
he
them
got older.
when I got older. Yes.
Right.
And I don't know whatever happened to them. I'm sure they were awful, but you have to start somewhere.
No, well, and the reason I asked is I don't know, maybe you know, maybe you don't. Tom Padovano, he wrote jokes for Joan Rivers.
Oh, okay. I've
And
heard that
he
name.
he
Yeah.
started writing jokes and then he started doing stand up and that was kind of where I was going with it.
Yes, yes. So I wrote my jokes. And then when I was in college, I saw a comedy show at my college, and the headliner was this guy Barry Crimmins, who I thought was really funny. So I went and
Right.
talked to him, and he was running a club in Cambridge called the Ding Ho. So he invited me to meet him for coffee, and I typed up my jokes,
Okay.
and he kind of critiqued them. And he said, in Boston, you really can't make any money writing. You'd have to go on stage and perform. And I was like, oh, I couldn't. It seemed so terrifying.
Okay.
And then that summer, I took a class I didn't go to Emerson College, but I took a class at Emerson in the
Okay.
summer, a comedy class taught by Dennis Leary.
Ah,
And
love
then,
Dennis Leary.
Yes, and then they encouraged me to keep going. So I went to an open mic, and coincidentally, my friend Barry Crimmins was the host.
Okay.
And I started doing open mics in college, and then I started getting like, like $20 paid gigs and things like that for,
Right.
short sets. And then I went full time after I graduated, and I did that for about a dozen years or 10 or 12 years, and then I got hired at Conan.
Okay. Yeah, I was going we get to that in a second. Um, in other words, besides doing stand up and stuff, you were on Letterman, Tonight Show, Conan, and you mentioned Conan. You were the writer on Conan for 27 years.
I was, yep.
Yeah, and you know,
And
I
28 if
really, I
you
really want to go deep here.
okay. I mean, I did the Oscars this year too, so I don't know if that makes it 28 years now,
Okay, no, oh,
but
that's cool. That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that was a great show. He did a great job. You did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. He really prepares and prepares and prepares. So,
Yeah.
he's got an incredible work ethic
I
so
still just I watch Team Coco and his podcasts and his television stuff he's doing. I love Conan O'Brien.
well, he's great. He's a brilliant guy, and he's been very good to me, and he's the funniest guy I know. So, and I appreciate all he's done for us.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, and you know this is where I gotta admit you don't know, and for people that don't know, we've never met.
right. I
This
don't,
is the way
okay.
I like doing them, spontaneity and this and that.
Yes.
But
Where
I'm an
are you
idiot.
actually?
I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot, Brian. I'm going to tell you this up front. I'm an idiot. And I have never been a fan of Jay Leno. You know, comedy's real subjective. You know, you like
Yes,
this when you
yes.
like it. You mentioned Dennis Leary. I love Dennis Leary. You know, I can, but I was never a fan of Jay. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on your feelings when that went down.
Well, I certainly, Jay is a great comic, and I used to see him, when I was starting out, he used to go on Letterman, and when they were friends,
Okay. All right. All right. See, now I didn't know that.
yeah, so he went on about four times a year when they were friends,
Right.
and it was must-see TV. Comics, we'd all be like, "Oh, Leno's on Letterman tonight," and we'd
Okay.
go to
All right.
watch it, and it, he was amazing. I mean, he could do 2 hours and go out and do 2 hours of clean, squeaky clean stuff and kill all the way through.
Okay.
So, um,
We
and
see, I guess I should say this. I was such a Letterman fan when he didn't get the Tonight Show and Jay got it.
yeah, yeah,
That bothered me.
sure, sure. I get that. And I love Dave, and Dave is the quickest witted guy. And when I did Dave's show, that was such a giant
Right.
thrill for me,
He did Letterman and Tonight Show and
Yes.
noodles of television.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, so um yeah, that whole Leno thing, I mean, it was very stressful.
Well,
Uh, yeah.
I hate to speak. I hate when I speak, but I'm just so you have me so enamored with this whole thing because until today, all I ever thought about was how Conan felt when Jay Leno retired. Conan got the gig, and then all of a sudden Jay's coming back.
Right.
And
Well,
today I realized that other people, including yourself, were probably affected.
yes, yes. I mean, his people were affected. Conan's people were affected. So Jay didn't retire. They were going to have Conan replace Jay, and they did. But then they decided to move Jay to give him a 10 o'clock
I,
show.
I remember that.
So Jay didn't retire. He had his 10 o'clock show before us, and um, you know, I mean.
If you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. We can move on. I'm
Well,
real intrigued by the whole thing.
I don't have any new insights, and I'm not a grudge holder, and
No, no, I get it.
you know what I mean. There's two sides to everything and all that stuff. So I
Okay,
think we've all kind of moved on. I will say going to TBS was great for us
right.
because the Tonight Show had this tradition of what it did,
Okay.
and I think it had tradition of having a long monologue with I guess Steve Allen and Jack Parr, and then of course Johnny, and then
Right.
Jay on. So I think Conan felt obligated to do
To do
that.
that. Right.
But that wasn't, that wasn't what we wanted to do. I
I
think we
got
had
you.
more fun doing the sketches and doing things like that. So the TBS show, we could just kind of do what we wanted,
Yeah.
and the network really, for the most part, very much left us
Great
alone,
stuff. Great
and we
stuff.
could just be silly and do the stuff that we thought was fun, and we weren't. I felt like we were performing for more our audience than
Yeah.
you
I
know.
remember when it started. Do
Yeah,
you have comedians that inspired you when you were young and the comedians
sure,
that you like
sure.
now?
Um, when I was young, I mean, I always loved Bob Newhart. I was
Yeah.
a big fan of his. I loved Rodney Dangerfield.
I met Rodney.
You did. I
Yeah.
never get to meet Rodney. How was he?
I, w- there's a whole story there. You want me? I'll do the short version real quick.
Okay, sure, sure.
I was working for RCA Records. I worked in the music business my whole life. I was in the Beverly Hilton, Beverly Hills, Richard Gere, Jay Leno, all these people walking around. Rodney was there. I walked up. Rodney, get in the picture. Can I get no pictures? No pictures. I said, all right, all right. Calm down. So I'll tell you a joke instead. I said, what? Okay, what's the joke? So the other night I was walking down the road. Guy's walking his dog. Dog started licking himself. I said, man, oh man, if I could do that, we'll pet him. Maybe he'll let you. I messed it
Great.
up.
No, no,
I messed
no.
it up. But no, it
That's
was.
great.
And then he asked me if I had any weed, and I did have weed, but I wasn't giving it to him because he wouldn't take a picture. There you go.
It's great.
No, but you're my kind of comic because you do one-liners. I grew up on Dangerfield and Henny Youngman and that kind of stuff,
Sure.
But keep going. You were telling me, and I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, no, no.
Dangerfield.
Well, I loved Woody Allen. I know it's
Yeah, no,
controversial.
I loved Woody Allen too.
Yeah. And I guess when I was a kid, I guess those were my favorites.
You're a really witty comic like those guys.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're
And then as
we
I got
can.
older, I love Stephen Wright, and
Yeah, me too.
there's a
I
million
met
comics.
Steven. I met Steven. Lewis Black. I met a couple of comedians.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And now I met you.
all right.
Yeah, man, I'm moving up in the world. Uh, let's keep going because there's so much to cover. And I'm real intrigued by this, the dry bar comedy special,
Okay.
because I've had a couple of people on, um, you know, that have done them. And I was wondering how that was, for you.
It actually, it's interesting because I had to actually cut out some jokes.
Yeah,
And
that's. I heard you can't mention divorce. I heard anything that goes
oh,
against the Mormon.
interesting. Yeah, you know, I think you can't mention sex. I'm not sure there.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a couple sex jokes I couldn't had to cut out. And I've always worked like
Yeah, you're
TV.
clean.
Yeah, but I was always TV clean where you can say things like I was always geared towards doing a late night show and you can get away with a certain amount
Sure,
of
sure, sure.
you know. But this was like doing a church show.
Oh yeah.
So there's a difference between TV clean and church
I
clean.
had Frances Di Lorenzo is who I was thinking about.
Oh
She's
yeah,
done
yeah.
she's done two of them.
Right, right. She's
And
done
I
great.
think Kathy Ladman did one, and some of the comedians I've had on, Jan Karam has had,
Jen
has
Karam
done
just
them.
did one. Yeah, yeah.
And
Um,
that's where I learned about because I never put two and two together that boy, it's got to be white, clean, and neat.
it's a dry bar. There's no alcohol in the bar,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's squeaky clean. So um, it threw me a little bit to I've never had to edit stuff out and go,
I
okay,
was just
that,
gonna say when you have
that
to edit stuff out,
that's what I mean.
we
Every show I do, the other people I'm on the show, there's always somebody in the show way different. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? So so I did have to do it, but I've done church shows, so I kind of had to think of it like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Um,
just find it ironic that you had to dust off a
I
guy.
know. I'm like, come on. It's like, give me a break here. But it was really fun. And then the clips are on YouTube and whatever.
Yeah.
And then
I'm going to
people,
put the links to your Instagram, your YouTube,
oh,
Facebook,
thank you.
everything I'll put on this interview so people can check out your Instagram stuff is absolutely it's just hilarious.
Oh, well, thanks. I have this young person who helps me, and I get gigs from it. I wouldn't know how to edit the clips and put the subtitles on and all that
Are
stuff.
you serious?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm
Oh,
so
okay.
with technology. So
No, but it's amazing. I mean, and your YouTube channel and everything, it's just great. I want to I'm saving it because I watched on your YouTube channel today something. But before we get to that, I want to talk about, or just ask you, out of all you've done, and you're an amazing guy. You've done so much in comedy. If you look up comedy in the dictionary, your picture's there. Do you have a favorite show? And then the follow up, because I'm an idiot, a least favorite show.
um I
See, I
can't
love that question. By the way, I like the second part of it better than the first.
I guess I guess my first time doing Letterman yeah, was this. So this is what happened. When I was 25, I auditioned for Letterman, and the
Okay.
producer was very complimentary and very nice. And then they called me to do the show 17 years later.
I'm sorry. I told
Yes.
you I'm an idiot. I
No, no,
told
no.
you that.
So really,
Is
so
that true?
swear to God. So when I was 42,
17 years and 42.
working at Conan. I'm at my desk, and Eddie Brill calls me and says, "This is a weird question, but can you do the show today?" And I said, "Yep."
Wow.
And I always kept a suit in my office just because sometimes at Conan, a guest wouldn't show up
Yeah,
and
no,
they,
and you would go on, right?
yeah. So I just put my suit on and walked over there and did it. And
That's
it was
incredible.
well, Dave got sick. That's what happened was he got sick. So Bruce Willis was supposed to be the first guest, and Bruce Willis host. They made Bruce Willis the host, so
I
they need
see. Okay. I
yeah.
remember that. I remember that
Now
show.
I don't remember how many people. I don't know how many people they called before me.
But
But
you went and did it.
I went and did it. Yep.
Yeah.
And then they would have me on subsequently also when somebody canceled or whatever.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Fan- uh,
And one show I did a show with you too. So
Wow.
it was Jason Segel, me, and then you too. And so what happened was when I get there, they said, "Hey, listen, all the dressing rooms are taken up by the U2 guys. So just gonna be in the green room, and the green room is on the first floor where the studio was, right near the studio.
Right.
So I'm in the green room, and then one of the producers came in and said, "Hey, listen, while you're performing, would it be okay if we brought the guys from U2 down into your dressing room?" So I said, "Listen, you tell those Irish sons of bitches." No, no. Um, so I said, "Of course." So I went and did my set, and then
So
I
you
come
didn't
out.
really say that.
No, no, I didn't say that.
I'm
And then
kidding.
I go in the green room, and it's the four guys from U2 and
Yeah.
me. And they all introduce themselves. Bono
Yeah.
introduces
Right. Right.
himself.
Right.
The Edge says, "Hi, I'm the Edge. Nice to meet you, the Edge." And while they were setting up for them, so we just talked about our kids for 10 minutes and had like a dad conversation.
Yeah.
It was so surreal.
I
So
have a picture with Ringo Starr, and that's pretty wild. And I also have a picture with Kiss, Cheap Trick, different arcs, and I can
right.
relate. I can
Does
relate.
everybody ask you for weed? Is that what happened?
Oh, hey, after this is over, you can contact me, call me, and I'll see what I can do for you. I didn't know it was going to turn this way.
I don't need any weed. I
No,
just think
I'm just messing with you. Now
I think it's so
relax.
I think it's so funny that Rodney asked you for weed. It's
There's more to that story. I'll
okay.
tell you. There's a lot more. Just stop it. Stop. This is
Okay.
about you.
Sure, sure,
All
sure.
right. So we got least favorite. We got least favorite show where things didn't go so good.
Um,
You don't have to.
no, no,
You're
no.
a comedy. You can do whatever you want.
I wish there weren't so many.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, so many.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's
Doesn't
just
matter.
yeah, sometimes it's just bad. I don't know what to tell you.
It,
Sometimes you have a private show and everyone's milling around and they don't even realize you're up there and I don't know.
I'll do this, and I hate when I talk. I would prefer you did all the talking. But Kathy Ladman was just on the show,
Mhm.
and Kathy told me, and I laughed really hard. She said when she was first starting out, I guess she was in Philadelphia, and I'm in York, Pennsylvania. You asked where I'm at.
Oh, okay.
Um, Philadelphia's a tough town, and they were throwing things at her. And she said she was so nervous, and she was like, "Okay, thank you, thank you." She was thanking them as they're throwing stuff at her. That's
Yeah.
true. You can
Yeah.
watch it.
I think the worst show I can remember, it was a Friday night second show on St. Patrick's Day in Boston.
Oh yeah. Oh my.
And
People were
so,
crinkled.
oh boy.
People were
So,
crinkled.
yes, it really,
They
it
were
was
crinkled.
so bad. So I think St. Patrick's Day in Boston is very,
All right, all
I,
right. I don't want to press you. It seemed like I
yeah,
inspired you a little bit. You thought of one.
I did. I did.
Okay.
There's a million other ones I have to say.
Yeah.
One time I did a show with my friend George McDonald, and we drive 4 hours up to Vermont. And we get there, and it's just this inn, and they had our pictures out front on one of these sandwich boards, and it had our headshots. And it said on the thing, it said, comedians? Question mark. It's like, we're being heckled by the sign before the show. I don't know.
For the show. Um, I wanted to save this one because I think whoever it is, you say you don't do it, but on YouTube, you posted a clip from 2023 or whatever. I don't know what the, but it was Dion Cole
Oh, sure, sure.
with Martin Luther King Day. And I had to tell you this because Dion Cole is a friend of Lester Bibbs, who Lester's got me George Wallace, and Lester and I are like really tight.
Hmm.
And I just wondered because I didn't know, again, like everything I learned today, I didn't know that Dion Cole was part of Conan. That he was with Conan.
He was, you know what, he went on, I think it was with the Tonight Show. I think he went on as it's I the shows merge in my head a little bit. Sometimes I
Okay.
conflate things, but as I recall, he went on the Tonight Show and he destroyed
All
you
right.
know, he's so charismatic and so funny. So he destroyed, and then he got offered a job on the show right after that.
Okay.
And so he wrote the
That bit was fantastic.
well, that bit, you know, it's funny. So they had a bit, and then he became writer in the show. So they had a bit where the premise was there was something that was too stereotypically black for him to talk about. So he would have me come out and say
Yeah,
what he was going to say.
it was
So,
great.
and you know, the funny thing is, at that bit, I would just come out and it was on the cue cards, and I just read the cue
Yeah,
cards.
the way you read it was great.
Oh, well, thank you. I tell you, I lost so much respect for newscasters. Once you come out and see the stuff on cue cards, you go, well, anybody can do this. You know what I mean?
No,
It's
but the
the,
way you read it, the word, your pronunciation, and oh my God,
oh, well, thanks. It was
because
very,
it was Dion Cole's stuff, and you were reading it
absolutely. So I was reading it as if I were
as
him.
yeah,
And we did that bit probably about 3 or 4 times.
really
And
okay.
I think Jose Arroyo with Dion. And the other thing about Dion is he was so funny. We'd write a bit that was only half written sometimes. We couldn't come up with it. And he would just go on, and oh, he was just money in the bank every time.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
so much fun.
Lester was like that. That's one of the funniest guys he knows, and just a great human being as well.
Yes. Great guy, and what an incredible performer, you know. And
Cool, cool.
he's becoming huge now, which is great.
Yeah, and like we're gonna after this podcast, you're just gonna fly.
Sure, sure.
Um, I want to thank you for being here. I want to make sure if there's anything, I know that there was one other thing I wanted to talk about because I'm an idiot. I can't establish this fact enough. But you wrote Ellen, the last year of Ellen or something. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. So the Conan show ended, and I think it was 2021, and then I was able to jump on the last season of Ellen through 2022.
And I wanted. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
yeah, yes.
Go ahead.
And it, you know, it was
I told you I'm an idiot.
no, no, no. You're not at all. She was perfectly fine. Um,
In my own words, I'd see the movie again.
she, you know. I was there sort of post scandal, if whatever you want to call it.
Okay, all right. No, I'm just
So,
playing. I'm just playing. Do
but
you have any? And I apologize. Do you have
no, no.
any upcoming stuff? You posted a picture on Instagram this morning about the crew and everything. Is there something coming up, or is there?
Well, I shot a short. I wrote a short film, and we shot it over the week. We shot it on Sunday.
Oh, cool, cool.
Yes, yes, and that was very fun. And you know, it's funny because with stand up and with writing a late night show, you write on a late night show, you write the stuff that morning or that afternoon, and then it's on that night, you know.
Right, right.
And the same thing with your stand up, you're out, you write a joke and you go out and do it. So to write a short film and shoot it, it's like, okay, it's going to be a few months now with the editing and the whatever. It's like, what?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I
well,
want to see it
and you know
now.
what? If it's okay, if it, and only if it's okay with you, if you had a good time and everything, come back when you have the title, when you're ready, and I'll do what I can
Sure.
to help.
Oh, thank you. I
I would
appreciate that.
love that.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I
I'm
mean it because I wondered what that was all about. And if you're involved, I know it's going to be fantastic.
Well, thanks. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts with these things, but
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
I cast the people and I wrote it, and I had a director, this guy Rick Serena, who's a great guy and a great director. So I
Do
feel like
you
it's
have a
gonna be
title? Do you want to tell people the title yet or no?
at the moment it's called the book club, but we'll see what
The
happens.
book club. Okay, all right. Well, see, that way, if you change it, I'll have like cutting edge stuff here. Is there anything else? Again, I will put the links to your website and to your Instagram, which you announce all your shows and you work.
I,
Uh,
I have to fix my website. The person who did my website retired like 10 years ago, and my website has my dentist appointments on it.
oh yeah. Well, no, I saw. I was inked there as
Yeah, well,
podcast.
you're in there. Yeah, I'm like who I'm having lunch with. So
I was
people are
under
like,
podcast, so I
what are
took it.
you doing? So I need to have someone kind of come in and do a
Okay.
professional
Well,
job.
anything that as far as if I can help in any way, I'll be glad to help. But
Well,
before
thank
we
you.
go, I have to give a mention to Jan Karam, who set this thing up. She told
Oh,
me after she was on, she said you need to get Brian Kiley on,
oh, well, that's
and
nice of
she
her.
said that you guys just did a show last week, and that you killed, and you had a whole batch of new jokes, and you were phenomenal.
Well, that's not. You know what? If she,
Oxnard, I think Oxnard, right?
yeah, I don't want to drop names, but if
No, I.
I should hire Jan as my publicist, or at least I have
I-
asked her to do my eulogy if something happens. So
well, hey,
yeah,
you're fine. Um, Seriously, thank you for being here. If there's anything else you want to mention, doing it, do it now. And then I don't know if you got the email about the closing, your comedy minute.
yes, I'll tell you my
Okay.
comment if you
Well,
want.
mention anything you want to do, anything
Yeah,
you got
I
coming.
think just go to my Instagram, or actually
Okay.
you can watch my dry bar on YouTube. You can just plug
Yeah.
in my name on YouTube, my dry bar special,
Okay.
if you're interested. That would be great.
Okay.
All right, have we
Hang
started?
on. Let me do a formal introduction.
Okay.
Brian Kiley, your comedy minute. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay, so I just want to, I know there's a lot of young people out there who want to get into comedy and are
Right.
comedy fans. So what I'm going to do with my minute is I'm going to try to discourage you as much as possible. So the first time I got on TV, we had auditions for the CBS morning program. They had
I-
comedy in the morning, and they brought us to New York and they shot stuff, and I was with Frank Cinderelli and Jimmy Tingle and John Groff,
okay.
and they filmed us and they cut it down to like 2 minute things that they put on the show.
Right.
So the first time I was on, it said in the TV guide, it said CBS morning program, Henry Kissinger, actor Raymond Burr, funeral arrangements, and comedian Brian Kiley. I'm following funeral arrangements. So then a couple of years later, I'll tell you another true story.
You
I
got
got to,
you got top billing over funeral arrangements.
yes, I took his funeral arrangements yes, they were, and it's tough to follow funeral arrangements. They
Go
were,
ahead, do one more. You say you got another one.
yeah. So a few years later, I got to open for Jerry Seinfeld,
Oh,
and
okay.
his show had just gotten on the air. His sitcom had just gotten on the air,
Right.
and it was 4,000 people in Worcester, Mass, for two shows.
Okay.
So exciting! Everything went great. So the next day, I came home, and there's a message on my answer machine. It says, "Brian, this is ABC TV calling." Well, I thought this was my big break. Well, ABC TV was the name of the place where I brought my VCR to be fixed. Your VCR is ready. True
That
story.
has to be one of the funniest things I've heard on this show. You got me good. You really got me
Good.
good
I'm
there.
glad. I'm
That was
glad.
hilarious. That was hilarious.